Logan Ferland made some time to hop on the Sports Cage today. Logan, congratulations. Was there ever a doubt?
Thank you. Yeah, not an April Fool's joke, I'll say that. No, definitely not a doubt. I was very excited to sign, again, an extension throughout 2027.
How does it work? Is that your representation saying, "Hey, let's get this done"? Is the team saying, "Hey, what do you think? Can we get this done?"
Yeah, essentially that was something the team reached out to my agent, and just to see if I was interested in getting a deal done, getting a longer term deal done. So, of course, being a SAS guy, I think that's really what motivated them, and really what motivated me. Why would I want to go anywhere else? So we may as well make this a long term deal.
Logan, Ryan Pollock here. Nice to chat with you again. Congrats on the extension, man. I know that's always a good thing to get out of the way and give you a little bit of relief from that side, and then know some direction moving forward. But obviously a long path still ahead for you in your career. But have you taken any time to really reflect on what got you here? I remember when I was around the building there, you were maybe a junior, possibly on the PR, and essentially working, I think, in construction all day, but still grinding it out and working out and getting yourself prepared and stronger with the goal of being a full-time player. And now here you are. So have you taken any opportunity to reflect on that journey a bit?
Yeah, crazy you mentioned that, because I remember that very, very well when I was working construction, and then, able to PR for the Riders around that time. And there was a lot going on, but definitely had some time to kind of reflect. Today was one of those moments. We had an interview with Jo and a few of the other Riders members, and just talking about reflecting on my journey. He kind of laid out where I started, even going back to Kindersley when we lived there, even going back further when I was born in Saskatoon. So to be able to kind of do that interview in Saskatoon, where I am at the time, that was a special thing as well. So just laying out everything from my journey from there to Melfort, through my high school career, and then reflecting on the Regina Thunder, really full circle moment. That allowed me, even while he was talking, just to really think back to those moments and appreciate everything that I've been through and all the people that have kind of helped me along the way.
When we had Darian on Monday, it's actually fitting. We didn't know that you were signing, but he talked about it. I asked him, what Sasky guys when you were playing were the local guys and the role models, and you got to watch them and how cool it was. And he just talked like these guys are such a role model. Two-part here, what does that make you feel like? And then what were your role models when you were growing up and watching the Riders?
Yeah, that's amazing to hear that, because I think it is true, and it takes a little bit to realize that. When you are in schools talking to kids, or even when I go back home, realizing that you are looked up to a lot. And I really have to kind of step back. When I was a kid, looking up to those guys, I remember, not a SAS guy, but Xavier Fulton. I remember seeing that guy for the first time. And I think Riders had came down for a hockey tournament or for a hockey game, when they won the Grey Cup, and they came down to Melfort. I believe brought the Grey Cup and everything, and very, very cool to see that, and see X out there, and that was just insane, seeing how big of a human he was and how much we all looked up to a guy like that. And then seeing all these guys, Brendan Labatt, Dan Clark, very, very memorable moments in my life were watching those guys play, and then being able to play beside Dan Clark and learn a little bit from Brendan Labatt when I was PRing in his final year. So that was just very, very, again, full circle moment to watch those guys growing up, and then to be on the same field and share that time with them as well.
Logan, I wanted you to go back to those junior days when you were practicing with the team. Maybe just touch on the difficulties or the learnings that you had, specifically once Thunder season started and you would come and practice you know, in the late morning, early afternoon with the Riders, and maybe have your afternoon off before going to the evening practice there. So a massive dedication. Maybe just touch on how that schedule was, what motivated you to get through what I'm sure was challenging days at times to be doubleheader like that and go and be expected to be a big leader with your own team as well.
Yeah, you know what? Going back to my carpentry days, working full time all day, you know, getting up at 4 to get my pre-work lift in, and then, you know, going to practice and being there till 11. I thought that was a grind, and I kind of looked at the guys that were on PR, you know, during those times when I wasn't, and I was like, oh, it's going to be a piece of cake, you know, come time compared to my grind right now. And then I hit that moment and I hit that PR year, and man, was that a whirlwind. Like, I definitely was surprised by it. Just the amount of reps I got as a junior kid playing there at the time. Obviously depends on depth chart and things like that, and how many guys are actually able to practice. At the time, I believe there's a decent amount of injuries. So I got a lot of scout team reps against really good players, against the starting players sometimes even. So just seeing that learning curve, and then not only physically, but mentally, the playbook, right? You got 2 playbooks now you got to memorize, completely different, not schemes necessarily, but just terminology I'm not used to, guys playing super fast, and just understanding things on a different level. That was the biggest things I remember. And then obviously a lot of the old line drills are similar. They go down to the junior level too. So doing the same drills I already did at, you know, 11 or 12 o'clock that day, and my quads were dead, my glutes were dead. And then you're trying to go again that night and also be prepared for your game that you have on Friday or Saturday. So I just remember going through that grind, and really was a wake-up call, you know, compared to just being a trades guy. And that in itself was very tough to do while I was playing junior. But, wow, you know, PR is a very close, or, you know, is a little above that, I would say, for just the work that I required.
That's awesome. It shows the dedication and commitment you had to getting here today. So just taking half a step back, essentially you've spent some time, I don't know about all 5 positions, but you spent some time at tackle, guard, and now it looks like you're slotting in essentially full-time at center. You feel comfortable with that move moving forward, and maybe touch on the difficulty within game, you know, as playing guard and getting slid into center, I think a couple of times potentially last year before you moved there full time. But is that a difficult move? You're ripping off gloves, you're getting ready to snap, all that stuff. Maybe just talk about what goes into a change like that.
Yeah, guard to center can be tricky for that reason. And not only that, but you know, the week prior to, we're in meetings, the center's in control of that room. You know, he's the one telling us, you know, how we're going to attack these guys right along with the coach. And with that comes studying as a center as well. So I not only had to study as a guard or a tackle, but understanding, okay, I could potentially be calling out our combos or whatever we're doing, making sure we're pointing the right guys. I need to do this as well, and just be right in there as mentally as the starting center. That's a very, very tough thing to do, especially when you have barely any center reps in practice. You're not used to snapping the ball and you know, getting ahead of the line of scrimmage, especially if you're dealing with a 3 down front, you got a head up nose. It can be a tough block getting movement when you have to snap the ball versus being a guard. I just have my hand on the ground, so right away I can get into contact, not even have to think about what to do. So mentally, I'd say that's where it switches the most, going from guard to center. Physicality wise, you know, you might, not that you're going to get a break, but you might get a little more help when you're playing center, right? So you're almost always in some kind of double team combo, or even in pass pro, you're very, very, very rarely you're isolated as a center. So as a guard moving to center, I would say physically it had its pros and cons, but mentally that was the biggest hurdle for sure.
Logan Ferland's joining us on the Western Pizza guest hotline. What was the main thing you learned from your NFL workout?
How fast things fly. You know, it feels like you spend 3 days traveling, and by the time you get there, you might only do 15 minutes of workout. So first impression is everything. really holding yourself to a high standard, being really respectful of their time and not wasting any reps. You can't afford to have one bad rep, and you never know what a guy's thinking. So you just have to put your best foot forward, and it's really all in the prep beforehand. Make sure you're prepared for every possible thing. You've no clue what workouts you're going to be doing, so reaching out to as many guys as possible to get a bit of a step ahead of the rest of the competition you might see.
Right on. So you're in Saskatoon, but when's the last time you were in Melfort?
Oh, Melfort was, oh man, that might be January. I'm going there here mid-April, so it'll be very soon when I'm back there.
I don't know if you've been following it, but their hockey team, Trevor Blevins, got an absolute wagon there. So it could be in the league final or close to when you get there.
There we go. Always cheering those boys on.
Logan, again, I know it was a busy day for you. Thanks for making some time. Congratulations, and looking forward to chatting again.
Thanks, guys. Sounds good. Looking forward to it. Take care.
Right on.